Okay, guys, today I'm going to talk about the first three books of the Horus Heresy Warhammer 40k books that look like this. And I listened to these on audiobooks, and it's kind of different listening to audiobooks. I know they got these enhanced audiobooks now where you can hear sound effects of stuff happen. Oh, my head just disappeared. You can hear sound effects of footsteps and swords clashing and cool stuff like that. It really feels like you're watching a movie. It was a British guy reading it. And he kind of overacted a little bit. Like, he would really make some of the real evil characters sound evil and conniving. And then it'd be like the main guy, Horus Lupercal. He would make him sound make him sound like real orcish, like real ogre. You can kind of really see a lot of similarities between Warcraft and Warhammer. If you imagine Thrall being like Horus, and if say the orcs and the humans in Warcraft were together, and then Thrall did something really evil and left and caused a split, that would be like Horus and Thrall are kind of similar. And your Space Marines, they kind of get divided between this. The whole thing with the warp is really cool. That's what I just really want to hear the lore. 90% of these books is just fight scenes and just sword fights and guns, explosions and blood and gore and shit like that. I don't really care about any of that. And it kind of doesn't even make sense, because I know this is kind of what it started out in the 80s or something like that. There's 300 something books now. And back then, there was this idea of chain swords, like swords that are like chainsaws for the blades, and there's chain axes. And I think there may have been some kind of laser swords, like the edges of the blades were later on. Because it don't make sense. If you got a chainsaw and another chainsaw and they hit, they're going to go every freaking where, and the chain's going to come off, and chainsaws don't work very good. You got to crank them. What's the power that's spinning the chain blade on a chain sword? Don't make any sense. So, and then a lot of characters that would come in kind of at random, like Lacton Cruz, whatever this guy's name is. He just, in the third book, he just appears, and he's fighting some other guy I've never heard of. And, he's kind of, integral to the plot, but I didn't have any idea who he was. He just came out of nowhere. And, also, when, in book 3, Galaxy in Flames, Horus decides, for some unknown reason, he picks a bunch of people that he doesn't really trust. Instead of normally they'd have, legions would go down, 10th Legion or 2nd Legion or whatever. He sends, the people he doesn't trust, I guess, down to this Istvan 3 planet, or 5, Istvan 5. And he's going to drop these virus bombs on the planet and just wipe out all the enemies and all the people he doesn't trust at the same time. Doesn't really say, why he doesn't trust everybody. Because it's the original people, the whole point was to, the first book is about, how they're all atheists, and they disavow any kind of spirits or gods or magic or any kind of woo-woo nonsense. And then Horus gets injured, and then they take him to this temple, which is kind of connected to the warp somehow. He goes in there for 9 days. He's either going to die or he's going to get healed. And he ends up seeing, they give him a vision of what the Emperor is trying to do. And they show him that the Emperor is trying to become God. And he's going to forget about Horus. He's got all these statues, which also reminded me of Stormwind. Because he goes in, there's all these statues of all these famous people that I never heard of before. But it's the Emperor likes these people for some reason, and Horus wasn't one of the statues. So that pissed off Horus and made him want to rebel anyway and stop the Emperor from becoming a god. Maybe become a god himself. I don't know, because the Horus Heresy is 55 books, I think, and it's supposed to be 2,000, 3,000 years before the main Warhammer story. So, if they're still using chain blades 3,000 years later, I'm going to be kind of pissed. But anyway, the main character, I feel is this guy, Garviel Loken. But the way the guy pronounced it, I thought his name was Logan. And they always call him Garvey for short, like Garvey. Hey, Garviel Logan. That's the only way he kind of pronounced it. Hastur Sejanus, I don't remember what he did. Tarek Torgadon, he was like a real friend of Logan's, I think, at the end. Nero Vipus, I think he was one of his big friends. My favorite character was Kirill Sinderman. Sinderman? Sindrmann? That's not at all how I thought he was. I thought it was like cinnamon with a D in the middle. Kirill Sinderman, he's like a real thinker of a guy. He's like the old, not as old as like this other guy. The guy that was like the right-hand man of Horus. He was kind of like even worse. But he was like the one talking about why they're atheists, and he was talking about, like, he always gives Loken advice about stuff, figure stuff out. What is his name? He's like a word binder or a word bearer or something like that. I've seen like pictures of these Warhammer guys that not Flagem, Mr. Rogers. I think Mr. Rogers or Flagem. One of them collects these things and they paint them. I think it's Mr. Rogers. He calls them plastics. He spends like $100 on these little figures and he paints them. But you can get ones that have like words along their armor, like loyalty and faith and whatever kind of shit. What's that thing from Helldivers? There's kind of a dumb name you can name your ship. Anyway, yeah, you see a lot of them. They're just like scroll bearers, or they have like a big flag or giant spear with a flag or something written on it. I don't know. They get pretty wild, and the armor gets crazy big and huge. And some of the stuff they just kind of describe, like devastators and stuff. You don't really tell you what it is. It's like I guess a giant robot suit or something. Yeah. So all the fight scenes, I didn't really care that much. When he dropped the virus bombs on me, that reminded me a lot of Warhammer 3, when I want to say Nurgle, or who's the guy that poisoned all the farms and made everybody turn into Scourge? That guy. It reminded me a lot of that. And then, yeah, it's a lot of, it just really kind of hits the same notes as Warhammer. Nero Vipus, I think he was like one of his friends. Aximand, I think he was one of the Primarchs that turned evil. Virula Moy, he was a twin, I think, and his twin brother died. Xavier Jubal, he was a guy who turned into like an undead, because like the second book, they kind of introduced the Necrons a little bit. I think they had like some undead things going on. Third book, they kind of introduced orcs for like at the beginning of it. They didn't really go into detail, so I'm kind of getting just bits and pieces of the lore. It's all I really want is the lore. And then at the end of the last book, I think they escape with the Eisenstein ship. But then in the future, I think when the regular series, everybody says you could start there reading the Eisenhorn books. So if Eisenstein is different from Eisenhorn, I don't know. Lord Commander Eidolon, he was really important. My second favorite character maybe was Lucius. He was like the big main sword fighter guy. He always wins all the duels. He's pretty much unkillable. He turns evil at the very end and betrays the people that are like taking refuge in this castle kind of a place. Chaplain Charmosian, he kills him. Even though he kills him, then he switches to his side immediately after. It's kind of dumb. Saul Tarvitz, I can't remember if he was a good guy or a bad guy. They got the Emperor's Children and you got the Sons of Horus. But some of the Sons of Horus, like Gavriel Loken, which was part of a Mournival also, which was like this group of people that were supposed to be like speaking truth to power or whatever. I think him and Torgadon, they like were the ones that the Horus didn't like, so he kicked them out. And then they said, we're not Sons of Horus anymore, we're Lunar Wolves again. Or whatever, and they like the paint on their armor is really important, and the heraldry and the sigildry and all this kind of shit, very important in this universe. A lot of like bolters and chain swords going on. they didn't really have like any other real weapons. I don't feel like they had like a knife, combat knife. It was as big as a sword because they're so big. It's kind of cool, some of it. But like a lot of the times I would just space out and I would just start thinking about Islam or something, or like I've been studying Islam, or like I was thinking about like other random shit going on in my life, and I'd just like, wait, what's happening? Oh, there's some fight going on, and I wouldn't really pay attention. I'd be like mowing the yard, and I couldn't really hear very well what was going on. So it's like it's not the same as reading a book, these audio books. Who else we got here? Tarvitz, Eidolon. There's another guy started with an E. He was really important, I think. Fulgrim. I think he's like got a whole book named Fulgrim later on. So I guess like every time they make a new character, it gives you like another toy that you can sell so people can collect them and just makes more money. So they just keep making up new character names and stuff. Not Erlen. There was another guy that started with an E. Eramon? Eidolon? Erebus. Something like that. He was like a bad guy. I don't know. I mostly followed the story. The second book, I don't really remember. What was it called? False Gods. Oh yeah, that's how they took him to the thing, and they were trying to heal Horus because he was injured. They talk about also like Horus. He's like a gen-hanced, so he's like genetically changed. He has like two hearts or two or more hearts because they were talking about his hearts were pumping in rhythm or something like that. So the Emperor and the War Eater and like the Primarchs, I think they're all like gen-hanced to be like have extra heart. I don't know what else they have. They're just bigger maybe and like got extra organs in case they got backup organs or something. Warhammer is wild. So the second book, I would give it 4 stars. Third book, I think I gave 3 stars. The last book, 3.5. The second book, I feel like they got more into the lore. But the first book, I really liked that atheist shit. But the third book was kind of in between. It was kind of like they covered quite a bit of lore, and there was a lot of fights, and I just didn't really understand a lot of the backstabbiness and like Lucius, like he only cares about achievements and ranking up. He doesn't care about his brothers. He doesn't care about what side he's on. He's just like, I'm just here to sword fight, dude. I don't give a fuck. We're killing innocents today. I'll kill some innocents. I don't give a fuck. He's just down for whatever if he can kill somebody. Maybe he shouldn't be my second favorite character. Anyway, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought these books were going to suck, but they were like pretty decent. Maybe if I get a different narrator, it'll be better. I think I'm going to read or listen to the second Red Rising book, Golden Sun, next, because I thought it was this guy I've heard on Tutor Ramble. They had this guy Kyle something on one of their videos, and he was like a really good voice actor, but I think he's just a YouTuber. I thought he was the guy that did the book. I think it's a different guy that did the book, so I'm going to listen to that and see if because I don't really remember the second book. Everybody seems to like it the best, and I thought Morningstar was the best, and I thought Golden Sun was the worst, because I don't really remember that much about Golden Star, except when he jumped up on the table, some Golden Sun running. So I'm going to listen to it again and see if I like it better listening to it. Then I might get back into the Horus Heresy, or I got some podcasts to listen to and stuff. But I mean, this really helps you catch up on your books if you're trying to read like a bunch a year, because now I'm not caught up by a long shot, but I was like 16 books behind. Now I'm like 13 books behind. So